Running a Fever with your host, Michael Davis. Episode 95.
Eggs in Australia. That's what we're going to talk about today. Well, we just got out of August, which is the hottest part of the year in this part of the United States and the world. So it's been pretty hot here, but not in Australia because they're in the southern hemisphere, and it's actually in the 50s there. Last time I checked, it's basically winter time. So maybe this is only 2 miles, the whole thing?
That's what I think. 2 miles around sounds
Well, we
better.
definitely got to do 2 laps then, at least. 3 laps would be 6 miles, which is a good interval from the 5 1/4. Anyway, it's a beautiful day at Lake Atlanta, and just having a debate once again. You know, Lake Fayetteville, I could never figure out how long it was until just recently, and same problem here. But just going by time, I think it's about 2 miles, maybe do 2 or 3 laps and see how that goes. Why am I talking about Australia? Well, of the 26 countries where people listen to Running a Fever, Australia is one of them, and I thought I'd find out a little bit more about it because I want to know about my listeners, you. I want to know about you. And I know it's not always easy for you to get me that information, so I want to at least find about where you live and why Running a Fever might be interesting to you. So Australia is up on the list. They're number 4 in Running a Fever downloads, behind the United States, Sweden, and I'm not sure, the UK or maybe Japan. I have to confirm that. But Australia is number 4 all time. And then I went to their government site, australia.gov.au. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Australia is a culturally and racially diverse country with 23.6 million people. We got leaves falling here. It's fall, it's autumn. It feels great. See the leaves falling, and I'm going to probably take some pictures of some of that stuff. Now, the northern part of Australia is warm all year round. Obviously, that would be closest to the equator for them since they're in the southern hemisphere. A little bit of a sprinkle now, but we're under a canopy, yes, a canopy of tree leaves. So trees are nowhere near bare. They're still very green and protecting us in this particular part of the trail. It's about the only part that trees actually come between us and the lake. Howdy. The southern part of Australia is similar to Arkansas, which is the home of the World Headquarters of Running a Fever. Rarely sub-zero. Started as a British penal colony in 1788. And then that practice of exporting convicts to Australia was banned and abolished by 1868. So it's been a long time. 63% of adults are either overweight or obese. So all in need of the kind of things that we talk about here on Running the Fever. Very much. It is actually not as bad as the United States, where 70% of us are either overweight or obese. And I read something recently that said the average American has 200 more calories per day in their diet than they really need. Howdy. He's not having a good time. Yeah. So, despite this, I would say that I know we're all overeaters, right? A lot of us, 70% of us. But are we active? And that's a good question right there. The most popular spectator sport in Australia is Australian rules football. In the United States, it is actually baseball by revenue and attendance. Cricket and rugby are also very big in Australia. This comes from topendsports.com and Wikipedia. The most popular sport by participation is walking, and there is the key. I've been walking for the last 9 months. I have not run since December 16th. So, despite the title, this is really walking a fever, not just running a fever. The same in the United States, but in Australia, twice as many women, by percentage, have participated in walking as exercise than men. 30% of women, 15% of men. Doesn't sound like a lot of activity. So that's a good opportunity to spread the fever. We need more Australians to get out and start walking. And one thing that might help them is listening to Running a Fever. So, tell 2 of your friends, you Australians. If you happen to come across an Australian in the United States or wherever you live, if you don't live in Australia, well, tell them too, because they're Australian and they need Running a Fever. Adults are less into sports than children. No big surprise there. And that's what I know about Australia, except the fact that I did go to Australia once. Got a tiger there, and what other kind of animal do we have? Didn't know tigers fished. Got some children with some face paint here. Just really celebrating the fact that, I don't know, it's Saturday and they're at the lake. Maybe that's it. I don't see a face painter, but maybe they did it themselves just to get in the spirit of being out in nature and being a tiger. It kind of looks like it could be some jungle around here, some of this place. Yeah, so I did go to, when I was in the Navy, and so this must have been either 90 or 91 time frame, 1990 or 1991, a long time ago. I did go to Freemantle, Australia. My ship went there, and then Freemantle is home of what was formerly known as the America's Cup. Really prestigious sailboat racing event. I don't know what it's called now because America, a United States sailboat, has not won it or stopped winning it every year, so, or every 4 years, I don't know. Anyway, the United States dominated that event for many years, and that's why they called it America's Cup. Fremantle, it's beautiful, bayside or oceanside city, and right next to it is Perth, which is much larger, and home of the University of Western Australia. I know that because I had a sweatshirt for a long time. It was one of my favorite articles of clothing. The University of Western Australia. So, hello to any students there. And all of the listeners in Australia. Love to hear from you. Love to go back again. So, if I were to get an invitation, it's a good chance I might accept it. Diet department. Egg division. course, we know that there's so many ways to prepare eggs that you could have an entire podcast just about eggs. And you could have, talk about the health benefits, the health detriments. What is an egg? Where does it come from? All these things. It's not this podcast, though. Now, how are we we go this way? I guess we go this way. Buggy wrestling. That's a good idea. Remote controlled dune buggies, another activity you can do outside. If it's fast enough, you might get some exercise doing that. So anyway, we know that eggs are amazing things. Beginning of the life of a chicken or whichever creature is producing more life. And I like to have boiled eggs on salad sometimes, and I've heard different ways to prepare these, and I finally actually looked up Pillsbury.com. There's a good set of instructions for boiling an egg. It seems so simple, but it's easy to mess it up if you do it wrong. So I put the link to that in the show notes, and you can now do that, or you can just listen to my instructions. Okay, so I like them very hard boiled, so I can easily remove the yolk. So, yeah, and since there's no podcast about eggs that I know about, this is the place, Running a Fever, where you have to get all your egg information. He's moving pretty slow. Looks like he's been swimming, though. I really feel like God's talking to me on these walks a lot. No. I mean, just when the wind picks up, I'm just about to say something and the wind picks up. Or something beautiful will just appear in front of me. Like a lovely singer. Hello.
Childlike.
Bring a saucepan of water to a boil. Now, some people say put the egg in first in cold water. That's what my workout partner, announcer, producer, whatever title you want to have, says. Put it in cold water and then bring that to a boil. Some people say hot water. Anyway, put the egg in first. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of messy. Set aside immediately after it comes to a boil. If you want a hard-boiled egg, like I like them, 12 minutes. And then, so that's the maximum you should let it sit there in just recently boiling water. And then just kind of, the adjustments go down from, 12 to 10 to 8 to 6 if you want them soft boiled. Hello. Hey there. And then you cool it. You cool it in the water, or you can put it in the fridge. I like to do both. Cool it in water a little bit and put it in the fridge, and that way it's nice and cold on your salad. Pillsbury.com. I will have that link in the show notes. So tell all your egg-loving friends to listen to Running a Fever. Very important to get that in. So we had a really good talk about Australia and the diet department. And we talked about eggs. We got some new information. Finally, some good information in my case. Talked about Australia. I really want to thank all the listeners in Australia for downloading Running a Fever. Tell your friends. and keep the fever out there in Australia and elsewhere. It's starting to get warm. Good time to have fever in Australia. And I will talk to you next time. This is the Padua Podcast Network. PaduaMedia.com